intellectual نعوقية and everybody. Today we will host Dr. محمد الحموتي in order to answer a series of questions about brain drain. Hello الحموتي.
Hello.
Arab brain drain to the outside. You could say that it turned out today. What can be described phenomenon?
Unfortunately, it has become a phenomenon endemic, and the studies and statistics, formal and informal, indicate that is increasing steadily, and it's not retreat or decreasing. And the Arab communities, unfortunately, become environment repellent competence and brain drain Arabic scientifics, but not attractive or incubator. Studies received that the Arab League that 55% of Arab students who are studying abroad do not return to their countries of origin, and to the extent that Arab doctors, according to these studies, indicate that the Arab world contribute about 31% of the talent and brains is migrating from developing countries as whole, that about 15% of doctors and 23% perhaps of engineer, and about 15% of the scientists of the total Arab skills migrating on the way to Europe and the United States of America and Canada in particular.
What are you the most Arabic country which suffer from that phenomenon? What is that?
So a report by United Nations Human Development say that in 2002 more than 1 million expert and specialist Arabic holder of graduate degrees or skilled technician immigrants and working in developing countries to contribute to their presence in the offer more and depend their departure for the Arab world, the effects of in development and dependence of the experience of foreign country. Morocco, you should know that Morocco is one of the biggest loser of the brain drain, and might in total in America, for example in America about 320 Moroccan efficient, and in Canada 110, in Australia, and 70 in Britain, and 35 in France, and for example 36 in Germany. All this and certainly in Australia we have there a great number, and also in Spain, in Greece, also immigrated from for example from the other countries like Algeria and Tunis, scientists in various fields, the period from 1991 and to now, due to this situation that prevailed in Morocco in the international embargo condition, which affected scientific aspects in the country.
What do you think are the most important causes of brain drain and Arab meant to the outside?
Despite the fact each and every one of these minds and brings Arab immigrant to the West, its cause and motive for immigration, but there are many reasons why the public that are similar in many Arabic countries, which is summarized in the lack of respect of science and scientists, and the lack of sustainable environments for scientific research and innovation, as well also double spending on scientific research. And in some detail we can say that the reason why the minds and the brains of Arabic immigrants, many including the lack of employment, they don't have work, and opportunities for interdisciplinary awareness, and generate a sense of frustration and disappear in the mind and competition, the neglect of the state and its institution, as well as the private sector, for these minds and specialists toward the competencies when see how you are hiring foreigner to causes were available competence needed locally. It's for the reason also the third of centers equipment of the scientific research as well as the non-Arab community to stage and the needs of society and the lack of strategies or politics clear and specific in the most Arab country in the field of scientific research. In addition of the weakness of the financial allocation is make it in the budget of most Arab countries.
Okay, seem to be the reason for freedom in general and freedom of scientific research and academic in particular strongly present in the causes of migration. Are you agree with me?
Yes, of course. About 20% of Arab university graduated go abroad because of the restriction imposed on the freedom of scientific research and free thinking. In addition, the reality of freedom of opinion and experience, which suffer restrictive and repressive, which are of great importance, requires the research of to freedom in research in investigation and set data and issuing the results. And still the Arab world deals with a number of data policy scientists on paro. Arab reports indicate to the invention of a political power in more than one field to prevent the release of the results of research or studies. The state encourage amounts to accomplish so about fear the affect the results of the studies the prevailing political situation.
What are the main negative effects of brain drain to the West on the Arab reality and the future development in the Arab world?
So the brain drain Arabic to Western countries have several negative effects on the reality of development in Arab world, not just the impact on the reality and the future economic and social development Arabic only, but also extends to education in the Arab world and the potential for employment of its graduates in the construction and the development of a technical based Arab. And the most important negative of the Arab brain drains, firstly we have you should know that firstly we have lost efforts and energies and scientific of these minds following in the veins of the Western country national development, while the need for such minds in the fields of economy, education, health, planning and scientific research. Secondly, waste of human and financial resources spent in education and training competencies obtaining by Western country without charge, and also weakness and deterioration of the scientific production and the research in our country as compared with scientific production of Arab immigrants in Western countries.
What is the cause of the loss suffered by the Arab country by the Arab brain drain to the outside?
The losses suffered by the Arab country as a result of the Arab brain drain in the 70s only just 100 billion, while experts estimate the total loss as a result of the phenomenon today more than 200 billion. It is strange that while losing the Arab countries, especially for Egypt, the phenomenon of the brain drain, Israel is the first beneficiary of this phenomenon due to high immigration coming to the rehabilitation of the Eastern Europe, Russia and some Western countries. The losses suffered by the Arab countries that bring dream to the outside causes and it's still in default fields of knowledge in the Arab world, and the weakness of scientific truth and rational, and his inability to keep up with scientific production and of the world in any field, that the loss is big, manifested itself in the negative impact that leaves this migration at the level of progress and development requires in the Arab community in the fields of scientific and intellectual education, economic and social development. And social development, which is the effect of a negative impact on the development project and reforms, thereby increasing backwardness prevailing originally in these communities after they became a major progress closely linked estimates of the advances of knowledge and production. Also,
What are the most attractive country Arab brain drain and means? What is that?
Actually, there are a lot of countries countries attractive for Arab brain drainers, and there is no doubt that Western countries are generally the biggest winner of the migration of at least 450,000 Arab minds, as are the United States, the lion's share of eventually and Arab minds by perhaps about 39%, following by Canada, and also 12% in Spain, and by 1% and 1% in Spain also, and 43 in Britain, belonging at the Arab communities, and including these numbers many of the categories in different professions and disciplines. The risk is reflected in the number of those working in the most important strategy discipline, such as nuclear. There are a lot of disciplines like nuclear medicine, and also microelectronic engineering, and electronic and radiation, and nuclear engineering, laser science and technology, and nuclear physics tissues, and space science, microbiology and genetic engineering. The study indicated that about 60% of those who studied the United Nations during the last 30 years did not return to their country, and they don't return to their country because they found this place is more comfortable for their studies or to work, and and also we say that 50% of those studies in France is only longer for their country, and also in the other countries.
Do you think are not there any positive effect of the Arab brain drain to the outside?
We cannot deny that there are some positive effects of brain drain Arabic to developing countries. For example, development of these abilities and competences, mental, scientific, thanks to the freedom available in the West and the big budget, open scientific research as well, provided last laboratories, these and centers, tools and hardware research. In addition there's big researchers, Arab responsible for research systems in the West, is that all these not deny that the losses suffered by the heavy Arab states do not compare what might be called the gains of the not be called by the gains of the positive.
What benefited the developed world in Europe and America from the Arab means that migrated to it?
You should know, Hamza, that the West cannot deny that these might migratory considered and is further in the field's leadership, scientific, intellectual, and it contribute effectively to industrial progress and technological development, and accelerated the movement of the overall development, where and perhaps the biggest proof of that get some scientific Arab immigrants to win the Nobel Prize. You should know that they get Nobel Prize and remind them. For example, there are a lot of example of doctors, of Arab doctors. For example, we have Dr. Ahmed Zuwal, Nobel. He have Nobel of Chemistry in 1999 for these scientific achievements and study of atoms and photographing various material through chemical reaction using a second psychoscopy.
And the why, how to stop the Arab brain drain to the outside?
Unfortunately, there is no clear Arab plan to stop the brain drain, and might abroad or Arab encourage scientists immigrants to return to their home countries, and due to requires that the Arab League to study in detail about the reality of Arab minds migratory and the reality of immigration currently in place, which drain huge number of qualified and hoping spread of they have rather than somebody else, and that is encouraging the establishment of association and federation and clubs gather them and allow them opportunities to identify each other, let alone that such unions are able to specialize in the Arab world. They combat them and cooperate with them in order to respective areas of specialization. I believe that the location of technical and knowledge transfer from industrialized countries such as America, Japan, South Asia and Europe needs to be canal of communication based human element. Therefore, the presence of the mind of Arab related experience of competencies of the excellence in developed countries, helping to accelerate the process of transpiration, and the base witness to go like this, all benefited from India of immigrant scientists as well as China. This means that the presence of migratory Arab mind is a partnership between the West and the Arab world, where it's planted in the Arab world and the then part of Western countries.
What are the proposed solutions?
So there are a lot of solutions that can help brain drainers to return to our country, such as firstly we have the active participation of the private sector in financial scientific activities, and secondly we have investment, scientific research, real investment in service of the society, and improve and facilitate communication between scientific research sector and industrial installation, and Arab doubling spending on scientific research to 11 times the current rate, encouraging the development of policies on the development of scientific research in all sectors of the society, activating, and also we have activating the business to take advantage of research and education to improve small and medium size, and we have also establishment of a strong scientific basis to adopt strategy for the development of infrastructure for scientific research institution, and increased financial support allocated to scientific research institution, and provide generous grants for scientific research programming and development. And also we have activation of relation between university and research center on the one hand, and private sector on the other hand in the pursuit of solving specific technological issues, and we have facilitate communication between researchers and industrial plants, and the granting of opportunity power enable research to take direct advantage of the business and industrial establishment. We have also the independence, and the more important is the independence of the university and the research institution from influence of power, and give full freedom of scientific institution, the formation of political programs, and set you want in the hierarchy, and all these solutions can help our brainers to return to their country and help them for develop and help to develop our society, and to have more development in our country.
Thank you so much for you, Answar.
Thank you.